been a while since I've done a review, and I'm going to be looking at something a little bit different this time. I usually look at war games for the PC. I've done a PlayStation game as well, but in general I stick to historical games on the PC. I have done one Android review, and I'm going to be doing another here. It's about the game called Plague Inc. In the game, you design a plague, and your goal is to wipe out all of humanity. If one human survives, you fail. Interesting concept. I honestly thought it was a little bit twisted when I first heard about it. It came out for iOS or Apple devices a while ago. I believe it came out sometime last year for them. More recently made the jump over to Android and has been very successful on both platforms, with over 500,000 downloads on Android alone. The game is free for download, and you can play it for free on Android, although you can pay for it if you want to unlock different features. In the game, as I said, your goal is to create a plague that'll wipe out humanity. You can choose from numerous different types of viruses or bacteria. There's actually 7 different types of disease that you can choose from, ranging from virus, bacteria, fungus, parasites, nanoviruses, and bioweapons. So, as far as that's concerned, there's a pretty good selection there. If you beat one level on normal, it'll unlock the next level, or you can just pay and unlock them all at once. You also, when you pay, have the option of editing certain features within your plague. You can unlock those as well, but it's built in where you can basically change the DNA of your plague. You can choose the name of your plague. The character limit seems a little bit short. Only 9 characters is the maximum length of your plague, but sufficient for such a simple and fun game. Given the fact that I normally review historical games, I decided to give mine the name Mao and start it in China, or Maoism, the idea behind Maoist thought in communist China. So, obviously not a disease, but just a random idea. I started in China. As your plague spreads, fittingly, given that Maoism was a communist-based ideology, the map turns more and more red as clusters of infected grow. They will spread out. You can choose from different types of transmission. So how the plague spreads, you can transmit primarily via air, via water, and obviously air was more contagious on board airplanes. Ships are all modeled. You can also have it spread via insect, birds, rats, blood pathogen, and also through livestock. You get DNA points as your plague spreads or as you unlock different items, and you can use that to unlock different symptoms. You can use it to unlock the different transmission methods that I mentioned, and you can also use it to unlock things that make it more difficult to cure or to contain and make it more contagious. As I mentioned, you can use it to prevent someone from developing a cure. As your disease becomes more and more severe, the world will attempt to fight it and develop a cure against it. If they develop a cure against it before you kill everyone, you lose. If your virus becomes too deadly and kills everyone before it can infect everyone, you lose. So basically, you need to fight somewhat of a balanced war in the sense that you want to build something that's very infective first, and then get it deadly enough to kill everyone before a cure can be released. Symptoms vary from anything from a mild cough, which isn't all too serious, to total organ failure, which, as it sounds, is a very bad thing and will kill people very quickly. Different types of viruses or plagues have different levels of lethality and different levels of different features about them. For example, bacteria is pretty simple. It's easy to get very contagious. It takes a little bit of work to get it deadly, and it's the baseline disease. Viruses, on the other hand, mutate on their own very rapidly. As I said, you can use what are called DNA points to add symptoms to your plague. So, you can unlock cough, and then unlock sweating, and then unlock fever, and make your disease more and more deadly. But if if your disease mutates on its own, which it can, you may lose control of it. It may become too deadly before you can infect everyone, and that tends to happen more with things like viruses, which mutate more rapidly. You can use DNA points to unmutate a virus, but on a bacteria, for example, if you unmutate, you actually get some of your DNA points back. So there is a bit of a balancing act that goes on in the game. In addition to that, there are some other nice features. Every time there's a little bit of interaction in it, so every time your plague spreads to a new country or group of countries, as not every single country in the world is represented, some areas like Central Asia, West Africa, East Africa are regions, while others like Egypt, United States, Italy are all their own independent countries. But each time the plague spreads to a new country or region, a little biological symbol will pop up, and if you pop it with your finger, you get some bonus DNA points. If you fail to pop it, you don't get those points. Similarly, a DNA-looking icon will pop up from time to time, and when you tap on that, you get some bonus points. When the cure begins to be developed, which the world doesn't initially take any notice of your plague. It depends on how deadly you make it, how many people get infected. That's another thing. The more deadly it is early on, the more likely countries are to fund research to cure it. So essentially, you're fighting a balancing act there where you want to get as many people infected as possible, thus spreading the disease as much as you can without attracting too much attention so the cure research starts too late. Countries will elevate their spending as more and more people are infected and killed in order to fight the plague and try and gain a cure quicker. However, if the country is overrun by the disease and can no longer function effectively, anarchy may ensue, and the more disruption that goes on in a country, the less they can spend. So they might max their spending out, but if the country descends into anarchy, then they end up spending nothing on research. As I was saying, though, as the cure is developed, you'll also see periodically little beaker symbols pop up that are blue, and if you don't pop those, the cure research is accelerated. If you do pop those, cure research slows down. In addition, different symptoms can affect cure research. For example, insanity. If one of the symptoms of your disease is insanity, then cure research is dramatically slowed. An insane doctor, if he's infected, will not do a very good job of containing the disease or working on a cure. Also, there are quite a few nice little graphs that show the status of various countries, status of the world, number of infected, number of not infected, some nice pie charts. They do a pretty good job in this game of simulating movement from country to country. So countries will shut down their airports, shut down their ports, shut down their land borders, exterminate rats, insects, birds, depending on how the plague is spreading. So they will fight back as much as they can. There are 3 different difficulty levels, from casual to normal to brutal. In casual, it's assumed that I would say it's probably more along the lines of 1800s or 1500s or 1000s in terms of sanitary conditions. People won't wash their hands. Is kind of how it's worded. Doctors and people hug infected people, so it's really easy to spread your plague on casual. Or is it brutal? According to the instructions there, anyone who's infected gets thrown in prison, thus meaning quarantining efforts are much more severe. And normal, which I believe is supposedly based on what real life is. It's harder to infect more remote areas because in order to get to a new country, sometimes you need to rely on a ship or a plane being infected traveling there. In the case of Greenland, that can be very difficult, where they have no airport and only a port, or no airport and only one port. A lot of times when you fail, you'll see it's the very isolated places in the world that do not get infected, like the Philippines, which in the world today, it's really not that isolated, a lot of these places. But for the sake of the game, they are much more isolated. In general, you kind of have an idea if you're going to succeed, but like I said, it is somewhat of a balancing act. The game is a lot of fun. I've wasted quite a bit of time playing the game, and it's a very enjoyable game. I'd recommend it to anyone who's interested in kind of a light-hearted yet at the same time dark game. There's a pretty interesting atmosphere to it as well. The music is in there, some creepy kind of children's laugh, crying, church bells, and there are also random news reports. So, early on you'll see a lot of random news reports. I saw one about Justin Bieber being trampled to death by his fans. Just random little things thrown in there that kind of add an atmosphere to the game. And then as the plague gets worse and worse and more individuals are infected, then the reports become more focused on the disease, which is nice. Because of the relatively large number of different types of plagues, you can actually have a pretty good amount of replayability in this. It's also very replayable because if you start in a wealthy country, it's a lot harder to spread than if you start in a more impoverished country. But there's a flip side to that. Wealthy countries tend to have very good transport, and it's easy to spread it from one country to another once you overcome the fact that wealthier countries are better at containing it internally, but because they have more airports and ports, it's easier to get to spread to other countries. So the infection might start out slower, but it can spread to more places quicker. Or if you start in a region like West Africa, which I believe only has one port and no airports, it's a lot harder to get it out of the local area, depending on the method that you choose for spreading the disease. But anyway, that was just a quick little review of Plague Inc. If it's intriguing, check it out. Like I said, it's on Apple devices, it's on Android devices. I'm not sure about Windows devices or Blackberries, but I don't believe it is on either of those. It's a free download on Android. I believe it's 99 cents on Apple. And if you want, you can unlock everything just by buying it. I haven't purchased it myself. I don't have the price in front of me. But it's definitely an interesting, fun little game. And in my case, Maoism did eradicate humanity. But thanks for watching. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer signing out.